Hello friends, it's been a while since I've done a product installation video, and I'm doing it this time with something that's new to me, and that is the Supersprox sprockets. I haven't used them before, so this is my first time. I went out looking for what I thought would be the best and found these guys, and they look really good. Real excited to see how they work on this bike. Now, I'd originally gone out and bought this bike with only 3,000 miles on it, so I wasn't thinking I was going to need a chain right off the bat, but as soon as I actually checked the bike over after I'd ridden it some, I found that it had this kink in it and decided, boy, I better hurry up and go out and get one. And while I'm doing it, I might as well get something really good so I don't have to come back to this later. The order you do it may be different than me, but rather than loosening up the rear axle and getting that part of it prepped, I like to just go at the grinding first step and get that first link going. I grabbed the old chain breaker, and you have to make sure you get it aligned properly in the right spot there, right on the pin before you start doing this. But once you've got it lined up, you just crank that baby tight and push the pins out. I used the tools out of the onboard toolkit just to make sure that I had them, and the same with the side for the adjusters. But if you're wondering what they were for the back wheels, it was 17 millimeter for the left and 21 millimeter for the right, and then that's a 12 and 10 millimeter. Once I got the wheel loose and could move it up and the chain was ready, I was able to then just use the old pliers and pull the link right out. It's amazing how good the old chain comes off when you have got the link removed, and you just grab onto it and pull it on out of there. A reminder when you're removing the axle bolt that make sure you lift the wheel up just a little bit to remove some of the pressure of the weight of the wheel on the axle bolt that comes right out. One thing worth noting when you're removing the sprocket bolts is loosen those things initially while the wheel is secured on the bike. It's real important that you do it slowly and methodically, or you will strip those Allen bolts. One of the things that I missed in the recording of this was removing the cover of the front sprocket, so you have to do that. And of course I didn't also get the removal of the front sprocket itself, which has a clip and the bolts to remove just to get them out. Of course you got to do that before you put them on. But the other thing to note here is that when you're installing that front sprocket back on and putting the clip, you have to turn it in a certain way to make sure the clip aligns right on the sprocket. So I had to pull that off and on a few times before I got this part of it where I could actually put the bolts in. And then once you're done, make sure you move it around and it's secured correctly. The installation of the rear sprocket, it's something I did laying the wheel down flat first so I could get the sprocket actually laid on, in the right spot. Make sure you've got it the right direction before you start putting your stuff in. Of course, you're using Loctite on all this stuff to make sure that it stays where you're putting it. The other thing that I did is I alternated the sides as I would put the bolts on. I would go from the particularly when I would go to tighten them down. When I'm installing them here, I just did them in order all the way around. But once I started tightening them down, I alternated like you would when you tighten down your bolts on your wheels on your car. You don't just go around in a circle. You go top, bottom, and then move them around. Once you have the sprockets on, you put the wheel in there. Lining them up is always a pain in the butt, but once you get that done and you're ready to put the axle in, make sure you grease it, and then use gentle persuasion. Make sure you don't mess up your threads by not having it aligned good when it's time to push that axle through. This is where you're hand feeding the chain on to reinstall it, and I usually will get it aligned on the back before I start with the front, and then once I do that, you gently get around that front gear there. Whenever I'm doing this, I'm always thinking about the guy that might be stupid enough to have his engine running when he's doing this, but anyway, I digress. Just get the thing on there very carefully, and then grab it in the bottom of it and pull it through, and place it on the back where it's going to line up fully extended. And then the next thing you're going to need to do is trim your chain to length. Make sure you don't do that thing too short. When you line this thing up, make sure you got it where it needs to be and that you get rid of the correct lengths. Having said that, this is the first chain I've done in a long time that was on anything off-road, and make sure you put the chain through the chain guide when you're doing this so that you'll have an accurate reading. I didn't do that before I cut off the links, but I had gone long enough that it didn't bite me in the butt. But just remember to pull that thing through the guide when you're lining it up, trying to figure out which thing you're supposed to use. And then in this case, again, it's the same as the earlier process for pressing the pin out and getting the excess removed. My RK chain was an X-link. It comes with the rubbers in the master link as well. So make sure you remove the rubbers off of the excess that you use and use the rubbers that came with the master link. And when you go to press this on, make sure that you carefully get it on there so that it doesn't press the left side or the right side unevenly. You want to make sure you press it on there correct. Don't over tighten it. Get it in there just far enough that the master link will go on there. And then it's real important that when you put your master link in there that you align it the right direction with the clips going backwards, so that when the chain goes towards the engine, it's round and the open end is facing towards the back. Once the master link's on, it's time to align the chain. And most guys that have already done this know what you do here. You're playing with the left to rights and getting them to adjust in the area that they need to. I went out and got an alignment tool as well, so it was my first time using it. It's more of a secondary piece just to make sure you get it aligned. I checked it to make sure it was straight, and then returned back to the guides and checked both left and right to make sure that they were where they needed to be. And then make sure you tighten the axle nut when you're done. So kind of a big deal. The final part is to install the covers, the chain cover on the back and then the front cover on the front sprocket. One of the things that's nice is on the CRF250L, maybe on all bikes now, they come with the engine case guard, so if the chain were to throw, it protects it. So that was pretty cool to see. I think the final result on the chain and sprocket combo, it looks great. I'm really pleased with the way it looked, so can't wait to get it out and try it. So thank you guys for watching, and keep watching the series this year. This will be fun and new for me. Catch you next time.